Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. I'm going to put on the crown. This is basically what I wore to the Minnesota Ren Fair. I was kind of going for, but I had way more gold and stickers and jewels on my face. I was kind of going for a golden goddess vibe. I got this little number, which is like a really cool Grecian goddess almost looking contraption from the Des Moines Ren Fair, which I went to before the Minnesota one. So, hi everyone. Hello, hello. The stream is late today. Um, my friend, one of my good friends, he's the one that's going to be traveling to New or not traveling. He's moving to New York City in January of next year, and he's hanging out here with family for the next few months. And he came over last night, and he got me into Sex in the City. So I only watch Sex in the City when he comes over, but when he comes over, we watch a lot. I'm almost done with season 3. Carrie and the gals just went to LA. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sex in the City. It was, I'm going to move this. See a little bit less of the junk behind me. I have been really trying to go or take my YouTube backdrop more seriously. I mean, I'm still obviously working on this space, and I don't know. I guess it's different when I'm going live because I just kind of want it to feel a little bit more authentic or a little less produced. With my YouTube videos, I've realized I want those to feel more produced, and like there's a lot of time and energy put into backdrops and lighting. So that has been a project of mine. And so it's kind of a disaster back there while I figure that out. But yeah, so in Sex in the City, and welcome to everybody who's joined the stream. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Yeah, so Sex in the City was one of those shows. Well, obviously, its prime was while I was really young, right? And my parents weren't into it, and it was the kind of thing where I didn't realize how funny it was. I didn't realize that it was like a more explicit sitcom. That is the vibe. Hi, it's me. Hello, hello. Good morning. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Or it's an afternoon for you guys now. But thank you for hanging out with me. Is it beautiful and sunny where you are? Because it is not here. It is gray, it is cloudy, it is very, very autumn, kind of dark academia vibes. Not at all like the Sex in the City LA episode that I just watched last night. That made me super tired. I didn't go to bed till midnight, which never happens on a weekday. I'm usually in bed by 10 so I can get up at 6. It's cloudy today and looks like it's gonna rain. No beach for us. Boo. um, but doesn't it usually rain like once a day out there? Isn't that kind of a thing that Florida is known for? That it rains a lot but very briefly. Is that a thing? Am I making that up? I guess maybe it depends on what part of Florida you're in. But boo to no beach. At least you guys live in Florida and actually go to the beach. All my friends that live in Florida never go to the beach. They just don't do it. They say they go once a year, and I'm like, well, that's like a normal person that doesn't live in Florida. That's insane. But they all live in Orlando, so I guess it's slightly more of a trek. I guess I don't know. So part of the reason I got it sure does LOL. Every very tropical. We're entering the dry season and won't rain maybe once every 3 weeks. In the summer, it rains a couple times a day. Okay, yeah, that's what I vaguely remember them always complaining about. Was the dry season. Okay. I spent the most time in Florida, I guess during the dry season. Yeah, because the dude I was dating at the time lived in Orlando, and we were dating during autumn, winter, early spring, and I was working the fair circuit. So all the Florida, I don't know, I'm sure you guys are familiar, but the Florida fairs are all like January through April, when it's the most temperate for people to be outside. And then the rest of the country have their fairs in the summer. So I think that's kind of funny. But that's when I spent the most time in Florida. Actually, for what was it? I think it was Tampa's fair when I was there in 2022. There was a cold snap that came through, and I thought I was going to Florida. So I brought dresses and shorts, and it got down to the high 30s. And so I was so freezing, and I had to borrow my male coworkers' clothes and jackets because I didn't have any pants. I didn't have any like sweatshirts or anything. And I froze my ass off trying to draw because of course the fair was still open and my fingers are frozen trying to airbrush. And it was one of those things, and people were covering their plants with plastic bags to try to protect it from the snow. Um, yeah, that was really annoying. But I think I'm going to be, like I've said, basically every day going to Orlando sometime within that time frame of January to maybe March. I haven't pinned down a date yet. I kind of want to see what my friends are up to. But it will be a beautiful time of year. Probably the annoying thing is I like to swim. So a part of me is like I should wait till it's a little bit warmer so I can swim more. But then I don't know. Oh, hello, hello. Mwah, 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 mwah. One of my faves. Love you. Thanks for joining. Is caricature art big in the Midwest? Do you see a difference in the different regions of the US? Hi. Um, yes, absolutely. No, it's definitely huge out here. Well, I mean, yeah, in the sense that every like the fairs, the amusement parks, they all have caricature artists. Um, what state do I live in? I live in Iowa, so I'm very Midwest. I'm right dab in the middle, which is one of the big pros for Iowa is that I'm in the center. So while it's not the most exciting state in the universe, it's also near a lot of exciting cities. Like it's an easy drive to Chicago, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Omaha. But yes, caricatures are definitely big out here. It's one of those. I mean, listen, if you do the fair circuit and you come to the Iowa State Fair and you draw caricatures, you're making a lot of money. You're leaving. Most people leave with somewhere between 10 to 15 grand in 10 days. So yeah, it's a big deal. And obviously I've been able to sustain a caricature business, although we're definitely starting to get into the slow down season. When it gets cold, it's harder to find work. But once it heats up, I mean, yeah, every little farmer's market and all that. Yeah, well, listen, it's not the easiest one to be in the sense that like you have to travel a lot. They're road dogs. They're literally living in trailers, traveling all over the country, working these different fairs. And granted, that's only for like 6 months out of the year roughly, so they also get a lot of time off. But then when you're working nonstop. I mean, they're 10 to 14-hour days every single day during the duration of the fair. You're living in a trailer with your coworkers that you've also worked next to all day. And while in some ways, I mean, the reason we can draw so fast is because we can do it over and over again. When you're doing it over and over for 14 hours, you can get pretty bored of what you're drawing. And of course, you can get creative, but like it's a numbers game, right? So in a way, you just kind of want to whip it out as quickly as possible. So it's a fascinating industry. I mean, one of my friends, he's been doing the fair circuit for over a decade, like 12 years, I think. And he's about have to be careful, but he's going to be doing really really well this coming 2026. He's going to be doing really really well, shockingly well. So, and of course, a lot of this can be cash heavy. So, but you are 1099 workers, so there are taxes to consider as well, and those are not kind to 1099s. But it's a fun industry. It's a fascinating industry. I'm in the caricature world, you always hear people throw around the idea of like, wow, it's crazy that there hasn't been a TV show around caricatures yet. And some people within the industry have talked about, really going down that pipeline to try to get something like that going. But I don't know. I think unless you've truly worked in it, it's really hard to get across how wacky it is and how deranged it is. Um, and that's part of the reason I had to get out of fairs, even though the money is super good. It's just so much work and it's so much time and it's so much of your time. You make money, but you pay with your life. That's for sure. So where what I'm doing now, where I'm doing large scale events like weddings and after proms, we're talking maximum, I don't know, 5 hours. Most of the time it's somewhere between yeah, 2 to 5, and that's all I got to do, and I still get paid extremely well. And because it's an hourly rate, it's a high hourly rate, and then the guests, they get it for free, and because it's like a free thing for them to do, they're just so happy. They're happy, they're grateful, they think it's really cool. Where people at fairs, because they're paying out of pocket for each drawing, the drawing is really expensive, and they're a lot more potentially aggressive or rude. Um, so it's just like I said, and they usually are waiting outside in the heat for their turn. So by the time they get to you, they're cranky that they had to wait so long, and they're hot or they're drunk. It's it's not for the faint of heart. it is not. It is not the easiest. Plus, getting started, you just have to be okay with doing literally thousands of really bad drawings. Which, if someone told me that when I was 20 and I started working in that industry, I don't think I would have continued with it. I didn't realize how long it was gonna take to get good. But I was young and delusional, unlike me now, which is very, rational. That's me. Rational Claire, that's what they call me. So another thing I brought for today's stream, because I thought it would be fun, I have some decks. I have an oracle deck and I have a tarot deck, but it's like a really pretty tarot deck. So if you guys have a preference, I figured it would be fun to do one. I'm leaning more towards oracle. Hi. Hi, Ara. Thanks for joining the stream. Love for India. Mwah, 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 mwah. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out. Do you want me to pull like an oracle card? Maybe for the month, maybe for November? Seems kind of fun, right? This is the first deck that I ever bought. I went to a witchy shop here in Des Moines, and they sell a bunch of like just I'm trying to think, incense and potions and hi Ara. Yes, I would love to talk to you. And posters and cauldrons and talismans, like a bunch of very interesting stuff. I think a lot of my issues with witchy shops like that, though, is that there's just such an emphasis on consumerism, and I think a part of me wished that it was a little bit more. Um, that it was just a little bit more like there was a way to focus on, I don't know, community or just things that don't inherently involve buying stuff. Even if it was just like, oh, you pay for your time to like hang out in the shop with other like-minded people or and practice tarot reading on each other, or just to have tea and read a book, I think that would be really cool. So, but anyway, so I went to that shop, and I was looking, and I've never been in a store like that really before. Hi, Ara. I am from Iowa in the United States, so right dab in the middle of the US. So very Midwest. Lots of corn here, some rolling hills. But yeah, so when I was in this witchy shop, and I've never like really been in a place like that before, I've never gotten anything like that before. Um, and I was looking at the decks, which were very intimidating to me at the time. And this one literally flew off the shelf. Like, subscribe. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Mwah, 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 mwah. That means the world to me. It really, 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 really does. But yeah, this Oracle deck literally flew off the shelf. It like just fell. And then the woman that worked there was like, "Oh, I love when they do that. That's how they choose you." I was like, "Okay, sure." So I always like to clear it first of, you know, whatever energy it might have had from its previous reading. Do I seem like a pro? Do I seem like like I know what I'm doing? Hi Ara, what do you want to talk about? I was doing a little oracle card pull for the month of November, I think. Alcohol wipe would do the trick. Well, it probably would if I ever kept stuff like that around. But I'm not a big, like, some people are hyper anxious about things like germs. That is not me. I am the opposite. Or not the opposite. I'm not gross, but I'm not an anxious germ person. Decrease your rate of speech. Is it hard to understand me? Maybe it's my American accent or my Midwest accent. Get my thing ready. All right. So let's see what the vibe is for the rest of November, guys. This is something I like to do with friends sometimes when they come over, uh, or like at a party or something, just to like break the tension or have fun. I don't know. It's sometimes, whoop, there we go. Flew out at me. Okay. Ah, interesting. So it's called the Cauldron and says containment, which I don't know. Do I claim that? Do I want to be contained? I don't know if I want to be contained. I don't know if you're my first, actually, or send you a gift. Well, listen, I pulled this for all of us, our containment, our cauldron card. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you a lot. Um, Containment. And the thing is, so I don't know if you guys know the difference between tarot and oracle. Tarot is a set. Yes, a little hard for me. So sorry, but yeah, it's true. Mwah. So a tarot deck has the same number of cards and the same type of cards in every deck, like, and they're always going to mean the same thing. So even if the art is different, uh it will be the same type of thing, and sometimes they name it different things, but it's going to have the same major arcana, minor arcana, and different suits. So it's the same across any sort of deck. One tarot deck, even if it looks different, is going to be the same as a different tarot deck. Where an oracle deck can be anything. It's loosey goosey. Any amount of cards, any type of art, any sort of like vibe, which is why some people like it. They consider it less intimidating than tarot cards. It also tends to be kinder than tarot cards. And I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm just scanning for like the vibe of containment. Like, what does that mean? Oh, there's important information missing. Someone is hiding something from you. Don't make moves until you have all the details. Are you guys listening? Is this resonating? Look out for any sneakiness. The world is not ready for what you have to offer. Wait until the time is right. Do we claim this? Anyway, I don't know. That's what we got going on for November. Wait until the time is right. Patience, maybe. What topic is going on? You know what, Ara? I'm kind of all over the place with my streams this week. Just kind of talking about whatever is on my mind. We're doing a bit of an experimentation with these lives. I'm not used to. I'm new to lives, as you guys have probably figured out. So that was my attempt at trying to have a topic at hand. But anyway, does that resonate with you guys? I don't know. Watch out for any sneaky business practices, I guess, or other little sneaks in your life. The world is not ready for what you have to offer, but doesn't that mean that it will be? So I'm not good at English, please forgive me. Of course you're forgiven. That's totally fine. That doesn't bother me. I've been able to understand you just fine. But, sorry. I gotta get my coffee. This is my new, it's kind of messy. This is my new Hedwig mug that I got from the Harry Potter store that opened on the Magnificent Mile because I went to Chicago this last weekend to celebrate Halloween. And so that Harry Potter store is a huge deal. It just opened up, which was complete like accident. I didn't realize that. But so I went and waited in line. They had a queue outside the store and we got inside and made total sense because it was packed. It was so crazy in there. And it was okay. How old am I? Well, I just had a birthday. So older than I was last year. But uh yeah, so we went to the Magnificent Mile, or we went to the Harry Potter store in the Magnificent Mile, and it is kind of fun to kind of fun to be in. Sorry, my cat is knocking everything down. I can't ever decide when I do these streams if I should let the animals come in so they don't bother me outside of the door and make a ton of noise, or um, I let them in, but then they shake the camera and all of that. So, but so the Harry Potter store and the Magnificent Mile, which you might think would mean maybe more expensive, high quality, more like adult taste Harry Potter gear, stuff, knickknacks, whatever. And it's really not. It's very similar to what you're going to see at the Universal Hogwarts gift shop. So just stuff like this, like a mug, some magnets, some sweaters. But I wouldn't necessarily say anything's high quality or nothing was even that expensive. And I think I was just hoping that it would be more adult, elevated Harry Potter stuff, more like interesting art. Oh, they had some prints there and they were atrocious because I was like, oh, I could get like a cool print and frame it and blah 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 blah. No, they were so bad. They looked like they were done by an intern. And that's the thing, is Harry Potter is just so popular and so beloved. I think they realize that they don't have to put in that much work into merchandising and people will be all over it, like white on rice, which is unfortunate. So, yeah, it is very decked out and kind of quasi immersive. So, I guess going into the store was kind of cool, but yeah, I would not do it again. Would not go out of my way for it ever again. But mm, I can't. I'm on my stream. I can't stay quiet. Um, but yeah, yeah, Jen, you get it. But I am a big Harry Potter fan, and on my birthday was the release of the Sorcerer's Stone audiobook with an ensemble cast. So I don't know if you guys have been hearing about that, hearing rumblings of that. They got a lot of celebrity voices to be in it, but yeah, it's an ensemble cast, which they've never done for Harry Potter before. And when I went to the Enchanted Forest for Halloween, which was this really cool hyper immersive walkthrough trail that's Harry Potter themed, and they had animatronics and lights, super fun. And they also had these little huts that were playing the Harry Potter audiobook, and so it's surround sound speakers and cool, like it was really, sounded incredible. And they played key scenes from the Sorcerer's Stone. And if you look it up, they're releasing one book like every, it looks like 6 to 8 weeks or so. So they've finished everything. So we're going to get all 7 books by like May of next year. But yeah, they released the first one on my birthday and I started listening to it. And I'm a big Potterhead. Um, Obviously, I dressed up as Harry Potter for Halloween. I'm a very big fan, but I haven't listened to the books in a very long time. Thinking of bad customers or some of your worst caricature experiences. Wow. So we're looking for a story time, Gen X. I've had some very rude encounters. Probably one of the worst ones was my friend and I were working next to each other at Adventureland, so the amusement park here in Iowa. And we had somebody, they felt like they got cut in line, and so they started a fight with the person they felt cut them. And that was my friend's like customer and her dealing with that, and they're having this like extremely heated exchange. She literally the goes around is like getting in the person's face and yelling at them. I'm drawing someone too. I'm drawing a couple, and then the person turns, and I think the couple is a young couple, and the dude was kind of douchey, a little arrogant, and he says something under his breath, and then the woman comes around and gets in her face and starts yeah, of course I love India. And no, I've never visited. I have friends that went for their honeymoon last year, so they came back with tons of videos and stories. It sounds incredible. But so they were yelling, like suddenly everybody, there was like 8 people screaming at each other. Then they started coming and yelling at me. And I'm like, have nothing to do with any of this. And they're like, get your boss on the phone. And I'm like, well, I don't actually technically have a boss. Like I'm a 1099 worker. And but I was getting really concerned because they were talking about throwing our equipment into the river and destroying our stand. And I had to call the Adventureland security, which of course did nothing. They just escorted them away, but not out of the park. So my friend and I, we left because we're like, well, we don't want them coming back through. Yeah, we don't want them coming back through and actually destroying our equipment. So we packed everything up and we left. And the people that were threatening other customers and us got to stay. So that was an illuminating experience. Seriously, are you married? No. But I've had when I did the Florida circuit, Floridians are they're something else. They can definitely be something else. They can be very, very fun. I always have a good time in Florida when I'm not working, but when I was working, some of the rudest people I've ever come across were not like they didn't threaten me or anything, but I would turn it around and they would they were just like, "Oh, I don't like this. This is bad. This is gross, blah 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 blah." Howdy, Claire. Ah, hi, Ian. Thank you for hanging out. Just you know, having a little stream party over here. I swear there was a point to this whole getup. I drew some oracle cards or a oracle card earlier, and I'm not sure I claim it because it basically said the world isn't ready for what you have to offer and you have to be patient, which I hate. I would say that's not my biggest strength in the world, being patient. Although I guess you kind of have to be if you want to be, in the world of writing and creating books because it tests your patience. I think possibly more than anything else to write a good book. I guess you could write a bad book really easily, very quickly, but to write something good just is terrible. My friend and I were talking about that last night. My friend that came over to watch Sex in the City with me, because he was talking about how he's interested in being a travel writer. So that's nonfiction, which so a little bit different, a little bit more straightforward in a lot of ways. But he was saying how like the thing that's always deterred him is how much work writing is and how much work editing is. And I'm like, man, you have no idea. You truly have no idea until you have rewritten your book. Like, I think I've rewritten my book from scratch 6 times, and then the first act specifically probably 12 times, and then the first chapter specifically probably 20 times, like from scratch and edited, and then went, "Never mind, I'm gonna change it." Yeah, it's kind of hell on earth. It's amazing when you finally, like, are done and you rewrite and you reread what you wrote and you're like, "Wow, this is amazing." Bye, Ara, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. But yeah, the writing a book is not for the faint of heart. I know there's some people that can do it a lot more quickly. That's why I'm really curious about people like Brandon Sanderson that are turning out such massive books multiple times a year. But honestly, so I've been reading the Way of Kings series and I finished book 3 last year and then I haven't started on book 4 because book 3 was kind of a mess. And the thing that I kept thinking more than anything was that this should be shorter. This should be edited. This is long for the sake of being long, but not for the sake of the story. So I do wonder that with Brandon Sanderson, where it's like, yes, he's able to write very big books. He's very prolific with his writing and with his creation of stories. But is it always worth it? I don't know. I don't know. Have any of you guys finished the Way of Kings or not finished, but are caught up with the Way of Kings? Yes. Hi, Slag. Hi, hi, hi. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you so much for joining. So glad to see you. Dreadfully slow character development. My God. So I loved the second book a lot. Um, when is your Jupiter coming back around? Ooh, ooh. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not that good with astrology, not that in depth. I like when people are, but I know stuff about zodiacs and tarot, but I'm not that in tune with my astrology chart. Which one is the Jupiter one? Isn't that something to do? Is that the wealth one? Isn't it wealth or power? Isn't that Jupiter? But yes, slag, dreadfully slow character development. I could not agree more. Although, like I said, I really liked book 2. I thought book 1 was fun but uneven. Then book 2 I thought was incredible. And that was where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want it to end. This could go on for another 60 hours and I would be so happy. And then I got to book 3 and I was like, which was Dalinar's book. I can't stand Dalinar. He's one he would be so fine as a side character. He would be so okay as that. You know who he reminds me of? He kind of reminds me of Ned Stark. And that's where George R. R. Martin is so clearly the more talented writer of the two because he understood that sticking with a Ned Stark character for as long as Brandon Sanderson has dragged out, like with Dalinar, that sort of archetype, is tedious and boring and not fun. And so, getting rid of Ned Stark as soon and as quickly as George R. R. Martin did was so smart and just leaves like a positive taste of Ned Stark in our minds. We're like, oh, we love him, we miss him, blah, 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 blah. But if he had stuck around for 3 books, by book 3, would have been sick of him. We've been like, oh my gosh, get him off the page. That's how I feel about Dalinar. That's why I can't stand yeah, book 3 was so disappointing to me. Oh my gosh. Every time we went back to Dalinar's younger self, I wanted to like rip because I listened to the audiobook and I wanted to rip my ears out. I was so annoyed with it. Every 12 years from birth, Jupiter will be in the same position as it was when you were born. It's supposed to signify new life changes. Mine's coming back around in 2027 for the third time. Well, thank you for that info, Ian. I appreciate it a lot. Okay, new life changes. That would probably be good information. Although, gosh, maybe mine is this year because my life has changed so rapidly and so dramatically this year. It's been almost at a breakneck speed. It's almost been overwhelming if it hasn't been so positive. But yeah, definitely the feels like it could be this year. But that would be good to know because if it's not, if Jupiter is not happening for me this year, then I, can I handle it next year? Um, have you read any other works by George R. R. Martin? They are surprisingly similar. They start with a medieval society and discover that a highly technological spacefaring civilization preceded them. Um, no, I have not read it, but I know what you're talking. What is it called? Like on the tip of my tongue. I know what you're talking about, and I heard that it's pretty good, but didn't he not finish that series either? Isn't that like one that also he didn't complete? Oh, George. But yeah, I heard that one was really good too. But no, I haven't read it. He's written a lot and like screenplays and stuff. And it's just one of you can tell by the time you get to something like Game of Thrones that he's just so immensely talented. And didn't he do he started off doing sci-fi. He was like a sci-fi writer and then kind of switched into fantasy, if I'm remembering correctly. And because he was also a screenwriter, that's part of the reason his storytelling is so addictive because he kind of understands the ebbs and flows of like cliffhangers and stuff. You're right. Avalon, Avalon. I need to do some scouring online. I would love to find like the original cover art for it too. I would love to find the original cover art for Game of Thrones as well. I've seen like the 80s art for both of these series. Obviously, I don't remember Avalon as well. I remember it being cool and very 80s-esque with the original cover art of Game of Thrones, like the real like the 90s covers, not these like new super lame covers where it's just like a sword and a cup, but the ones where they show the characters and it's like an oil painting or something are so cool, but I think they're expensive and kind of hard to find now. Um, Chewbacca came from one of his stories. Wait, really? Is that true? That's so cool. Oh my gosh, crossover. We love a crossover. Um, Beverly Dream is my favorite of his works. Bev Thievery Dream. Thievery. um, okay. What's that one about? Vampires and steamboat racing. What, really? Well, you have me at vampires. My favorite mythological characters of all time. Avalon was the one that he never finished. Okay. It was about the Galactic Center, I think. I bet it's good. I trust George R. R. Martin like as a writer. He's very talented. He's very capable of making incredible both large scale works and introspective, interesting, unique characters. He obviously struggles to stick the landing, but he's a brilliant mind. I'm rewatching House of Dragon. I just finished episode 3 a few days ago and I'm like, wow, it's and obviously House of Dragon that's like a whole different beast, because the book that it's working off of isn't a regular narrative. It's like a history book, so it's a lot of bullet points. But I think that in the terms of turning something into a show, ended up being like one of the best things you could work with because then it's not so exact. You don't have scenes. You can flesh out the scenes in the show, and that's why, especially the first season, turned out so good. Um, if you look at the early paperbacks of Game of Thrones, it says, uh, this is excellent sci-fi. What? No way. Because it was a misprint? Because people didn't actually read the books? Or why? Why does it say that? That's so interesting. I'm just waiting for him to croak and Sanderson to finish the series. Slagathor! We're on different wavelengths. I would be so upset if Brandon Sanderson tried to finish the series. Are you kidding me? Brandon Sanderson cannot. He's he has his lane, but what he cannot do is grimdark. What he cannot do is hyper realistic, I swear to God, dialogue. What he can't do is sexuality. God forbid. That's something that like really I can feel the Mormonism emanating through him whenever there's even like a hint of or his attempt at flirtation or pointing at someone's potential sexuality. It's so bizarre. Yeah, and so just quintessentially almost the opposite of something like Game of Thrones. Yeah, I I mean, obviously if he did it I would read it. I would love to see what he does. 'Twas a Robert Jordan Wheel of Time reference, yes. Now, I think that's a lot more they were just more similar in style, like he they kind of had a more similar essence, and that's part of the reason it was able to work so well. Um, and I will say I think where he can struggle a little bit with character, almost like smaller, like introspective, more like character intimacy. He's really good at big world um plotting and like knowing how to make a plot really take off. So him having the ending of something like Wheel of Time, obviously that worked tremendously well. Some could say it's still some of his like best writing, best work. Um oh yeah, that came through very clearly in the love triangle with the dragon of Wheel of Time. Yes, exactly. Or like, yeah, exactly that. Or his when he attempted to do the love triangle in the third book with Adolin and Kaladin and oh, what's the girl's name? I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. But the three of them, which I thought, like when he was like starting to hint at that, with the girl having her split personality and the two split halves being interested in different guys, I got really interested. I was like, oh, now we're doing something interested. And he killed it immediately, killed the momentum. He had some sort of magic in book two that he just never regained. Claire, do you remember the Red Comet? Yes. It was a starship decaying in orbit above the planet. It's where the dragons come from. There were siege ships which were sent down terrors on the planet. Read Plague Star. Are you being serious? Is this canon? Is this like a canon idea? Because now you're blowing my mind a little bit. That can't is that actual canon? Now, what I've heard in regards to theories around where dragons came from, it was that the blood mages of old Valyria did, horrible human sacrificial blood magic in order to erect dragons from, the volcano. And that's part of the reason they were trying to get more and more power, and then eventually led to Mount Doom and the fall of Valyria. Um, that's the theory I've heard, but obviously that's not actually confirmed. There's like potential hints of that, but not actually confirmed or canon. Uh, the comet idea. I mean, if it's crossed over with other work, that's crazy. You're blowing my mind a little bit. Is that true? That's very fun. I'm gonna have to call my friend. He's a big Game of Thrones, or I should say, Song of Ice and Fire buff, and I'll have to talk to him if he's ever heard this theory before. And if he hasn't, I think he would be very excited about it. Oh, it's my interpretation based off my reading of his works. George was anti-war. He thought nuclear war would send us back to medieval times. Yes, I've always considered dragons. That's part of the brilliance. I was thinking about that a lot while rewatching House of Dragon, where part of like the beauty, the like tragic beauty of it is that dragons are basically living nuclear bombs. They have that same sort of destructive capability. And then it's like, okay, yeah, imagine a world where there's multiple, because House of Dragon is the peak of dragonhood in Westeros with the sheer amount of dragons that they have. And so it's like, okay, you have like what, a dozen or 20 nuclear bombs, and who controls them? Not the people necessarily with the best temperament. It's just, all based off petty bloodlines and people seeking power. It's like it's having basically, yeah, children and inbred children, no less, like being able to control these nuclear warheads. It's so fast. It's such a poignant example of why, and he was obviously very inspired by, what was it called? The War of the Roses. That sort of medieval evil that a lot of people enacted on each other for power and conquest. It's such a just beautiful but devastating look at like why kings and queens and that sort of hierarchy doesn't work and shouldn't work and can't work, because you need the best people in charge, not necessarily because of bloodlines. So that's my my anti I want to say hierarchy rant. I'm not anti hierarchy, but that sort of hierarchy. Um, did you read Dream Songs? I didn't know he tied Tough Voyaging into Songs of Ice and Fire. No, I haven't read Dream Songs. Could you elaborate for me? I haven't I have like a slight I maybe know what you're talking about, but I need elaboration. I didn't know he tied Tough Voyaging to Songs of Ice and Fire. Um, Tough Voyaging talks about him going on the sea. Oh, okay, I see it. So it's all like I see. Thank you. I should have just kept reading. But yes, Tough Voyaging talks about him going on the siege ship and seeing a dinosaur. This is crazy. But I'm in a very much like revisiting Harry Potter, like the Harry Potter audiobook series. I'm very I think I'm craving just like epic fantasy, like really well done epic fantasy. Harry Potter's obviously more on the childlike wonder end of it. And then rewatching House of Dragon, I'm like, oh, I miss like that sort of epic fantasy that's so adult and treats me like I'm an intelligent person. So no, I didn't realize that these different that it went outside of Song of Ice and Fire, that there was potentially even more to the universe, or that there was these cross universe references. That's blowing my mind. Like I said, I'm going to talk to my Game of Thrones friend and see if he knows what about any of this, if he's heard or has read. I know he's read other George R. R. Martin's works, so maybe he's heard of all of this and then just decided not to disclose to me, decide to gatekeep from me. You know, Martin claims to have invented the ice dragon. I just don't feel like that's true. I'm like, well, when I was in elementary school, I feel like I also invented ice dragons. You know, it's like not that big of a leap to think of. When you're playing pretend, you're like, okay, I'll be the fire one, and then I'll be the ice one, and then I'll be the earth one, you know? But is he possibly the first one to have published the idea of the ice dragon? Maybe. Sure. I don't know. That also seems like that can't possibly be accurate, but what do I know? I didn't even know about the siege ship. um, I didn't even know about Tuft voyaging. What do I know? What George R. R. Martin has accomplished. Speaking of George R. R. Martin, oh my gosh, another thing that I did this summer was I went to Meow Wolf. Do you guys know about Meow Wolf? My first Meow Wolf experience. And that, in case you guys don't know, it's an elaborate art installation that's hyper interactive, creative, insane, all encompassing, takes hours to go through, that George R. R. Martin helped funded. So it's like very much, yes, Meow Wolf. Yeah, so there's a documentary about it like 5 years ago, but there was these artists from Denver, I believe, that wanted to make a hyper yeah, like an art installation, but it's that doesn't do justice with how crazy they are. Like the one I went to, you're inside a shopping center, like a shopping like a grocery store. You're in a grocery store and there's like kind of weird stuff everywhere. Like it's kind of surreal. It looks like a grocery store, but everything's kind of off. And then you can open up the cooler, like the freezer, and go inside. And then you're in a cavernous world with lights and sounds and creatures. You can touch everything. It's like this they're and every Meow Wolf is different too. They're all not all themed out like that. They're fascinating. And yeah, it was a bunch of artists. And obviously, with this sort of elaborate installation, they were struggling to have enough funds to do it. And then George R. R. Martin, I don't know if they reached out to him or he heard about them, but he's basically helped fund the whole thing. And now there's 4 or 5 of them throughout the country, and they're really cool. That sounds dope as fuck. Dude. It was I knew I've seen pictures even. Like I kind of knew what I was getting into, but until you go through one, and like I said, there's a bunch of them throughout the country and they're all themed out differently. So this is the grocery store one was the one I went to. I think there's like more of a space one. Um, and it takes hours to go through to see everything. And it's something where like there's a secret door here, there's a secret door here, and they all go off into different places. And then eventually you figure out how they wrap around. But it takes forever. It takes a really long time. Like you're so lost when you're in these worlds, and every possible wall, ceiling, corner is different. It's it's a blast. It's super fun. I'm surprised he's involved in stuff and not just chilling by his pool, not writing his next book. Yeah, well, I think, he knows that he's angered a lot of people, and so he does his little, his sprinkles of goodwill to be in people's, positive graces. So he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go fund the arts. I'm gonna go send a bunch of money to wildlife preserves. I'm gonna go to all these conventions and meet my fans." Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, where it's like I appreciate that, I guess, but could you also, I don't know, do your job, do the thing you were contracted out to do 15 years ago? Like he he's a frustrating person. He's not as frustrating as Patrick Rothfuss, who I find borderline insufferable. I have such beef with all of these fantasy authors because I'm like, man, if I was in such a position, I would just be so grateful and so like I would also just feel so obligated to complete my work for the people, for the fans, for the readership that has made me millions, that I would literally feel a metaphorical gun to my head to complete things. Yeah, literary beef. Holy fuck, I was just about to bitch about it. Yeah, yeah. No, Patrick Rothfuss is probably like George R. R. Martin can still charm me. Patrick Rothfuss uh, I cannot stand all of his like live streams or whatever where he just bitches about like, "Oh my," not to like downplay people's mental health or whatever, but him just constantly being like, "Oh, my depression, blah blah blah." It's like you have made millions. I guess I don't know if it's millions with Name of the Wind, but that's one of like the biggest books in fantasy. So I feel like he's for sure, if not a millionaire, at least near millionaire status. He's doing very well for himself. He has like made his mark in fantasy history. He has a legacy. These books are considered by many, not me. God knows not me. I don't know if I've mentioned how much I hate Name of the Wind. I do not like it. Um, I've been meaning, I have like a vision of doing a deep dive video, like a truly long form, like a minimal 2-hour long video on why I hate Name of the Wind, but then I would just have to spend so much time in the book. And I don't know, it seems, since I want to be a fantasy author myself, it seems a little shitty to potentially put out there. So that's what's always stopped me. But I find that book infuriating, that series. Um, I cut Martin slack, especially after reading Dream Songs. His aspirations were always on the screen rather than the page. He made it. Rothfuss is just insufferable at this point. I can kind of get that too. And that's part of the reason, because he was such a good screenwriter. That's part of the reason that like House of Dragon and Game of Thrones, I mean, have transferred so well onto the screen. I was giving a pause because I was like, well, the books are better. I was like, well, the first three were better. Not all of them were better. But yeah, he's just also just so much more talented. And Patrick Rothfuss has like can have the beautiful prose, but also to me like endless purple prose. And he does this thing which makes me so angry, where he just will not get to the point. He won't get to the plot. Ugh. And this is then that's just his work. That's not just like his personality, which is like just whine, 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 whine. It's like, well, then do it. Then complete the book. If you complete the book and you put something out there, then people won't bitch at you anymore. Then people won't say that you're wasting their time anymore. Yeah, he on a scale of 1 to 10, how insufferable is Sarah J. Maas? Rant, rant. I don't think she's that insufferable. I think, well, I mean, she has her quirks. She has her quirks. 60 pages of lovemaking in the fairylands was just a bit excessive. That was when I started to lose it. I already was like forcing myself to read the second book, and I was this close to just calling it quits. And I called my friend who recommended the series, and I was like, "Did you like you know this, right? You knew this would happen, and you had me read it." And it's not even what's even crazier too is it's not hot. Obviously romanticy and spicy books are super in nowadays, but it wasn't like, ooh, this is super sexy. It was just like, ugh, this is annoying. This is so like like weird incel fantasy. It's bizarre. It's one of those things where I'm like, I cannot believe that this got published and people like it and consider it like high quality fantasy. It would be one thing if people considered Name of the Wind trashy, in the same way where a lot of people consider Sarah J. Maas books trashy, because then you can cut it slack. But a lot of people consider Name of the Wind like, oh, it's some of the best fantasy out there. It's like, no, it's not. It's bad. Like, yes, he can be good at the act of writing. The prose that you read can be quite beautiful. And I think even the setup for the story of like older Kavoth talking about younger Kavoth and like the if you see the plot on page like in bullet points, you're like, okay, I kind of this could be like a really interesting fun story. And then everything gets dragged out. Like the fairy sex scene, if that was half of a chapter, I still think it's weird, but it would be like, "Oh, okay, maybe I could." It would be like whatever. But yeah, but that's what he does with everything. Every scene, every point is so dragged out, and I think people are like, "Oh, it's more realistic." And it's like it's more tedious. I don't get it. I've never understood it. Now, the people I know that are big Name of the Wind fans are men who read Name of the Wind in their late teens and early 20s. So I think that has a lot to do with its fan base and its popularity, which, listen, I've never lived that life. So maybe if I was a man in my late teens, I would think Kavoth was really cool. But can I rant about Sarah J. Maas? Now, I don't think she's insufferable. Listen, as far as like compared to these other authors, she has completed every series she started. Every single, no matter how long. I mean, she has an 8-book series that she's completed. So well, I think it's a trend that I've seen that I think is undeniable. And that's fine. I've recognized that, some things just aren't for me, and that's okay. And I don't think Name of the Wind is listen, and I'm talking trash about Name of the Wind, but there was a Name of the Wind edition of a board game that I love, and I bought it immediately because I really wanted to see the character cards, like actually like all the different scenes and characters painted. So it was consuming vast amounts of truly good fantasy that turned me off on him, I think. Yeah. It was consuming vast amounts of truly good fantasy that turned me off of him. Say that differently for me. Oh, I see. I just read it wrong. Okay, yeah, like you consumed vast amounts of of truly good fantasy. And then looking back, you're like, oh, wait, this isn't as good as everyone hyped it up to be. I think it was also of that certain era that kind of like early to mid 2000s where yeah, Name of the Wind and also Lies of Locke Lamora was really big at that time too. There was just kind of a craving for young young fantasy men going on these like very elaborate, drawn out, like borderline a little bit pretentious adventures. Um, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm sure people would see my love for Sarah J. Maas and A Court of Thorns and Roses, and you could be like, "Well, that's because you read it in your mid-20s. You're a woman in your mid-20s and you read it, and that's why you liked it so much because it just hit you at the right place and time." And I would say, yeah, probably. Probably. I think Sarah J. Maas is right. Although, compared to other romantasy books, Sarah J. Maas's writing is light years ahead, I think. I was a fan of Rothfuss early on and read it a second time and could not figure out why I thought it was so good. Yeah, no, that's fair. There are some prose I distinctly remember early on in the first book. It's like chapter 2 or 3, where one of the characters is walking to like the pub that Kavoth, or at the time Coat, is working at, and he's like walking through, and it's autumn, and the way the autumn weather and the trees and the leaves were described, I mean, it still sticks with me to this day because I'm like, that was so beautiful. Like the way he wrote it was like, okay, yeah, you can have remarkable craftsmanship with your words, but then it almost loses its spark because everything is too drawn out. You know, like there's just too much time in between scenes and in between chapters, and he just spends way too much time describing things that just don't matter, too. Like he uses purple prose describing, it's one thing to have like one poignant nature scene, but then he does that over and over again and just over describes everything and wants to include every detail and wants Kavoth to go on endless tangents. The tangents are what really killed me. Like I just could not handle. I was like, when are we going to get to the plot? Like there's a plot here. Like this bad fairy dude killed your family, and you're going to learn magic so you can like seek revenge. And we just were constantly like, oh, we're going to do this. Oh, we're going to do that. Oh, we're going to do this. And it's not done in the Avatar: The Last Airbender way, where it's fun and brief. It's done in an elaborate, and you could tell he thought he was so clever, like having Kavoth meet people and having like 3 chapters dedicated to telling backlore story. Ugh, you got me going. I really, really struggle with that series and Rothfuss in general. Now, again, if Rothfuss dropped the 3rd book, would I read it immediately? I would. So, I got to know what happens. He could benefit from a few solid montages. Yes! 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 Again, if you were to read the big major plot points in a bullet point format, you would be like, "Oh, this is like a really interesting story idea." Like, "Oh, this happened to a kid, to a traveling, I want to call him a circus. He's not a circus, but he's like a traveling performer family. This tragedy happens, and he's really into music, and he's an orphan, and he goes to like magic college." You're like, "Oh, this is all very cool." But it's like just I don't know. He needed an editor. He needed an editor. He needed montages. I agree. It helps. George R. R. Martin can struggle with that too. He loves a good side quest and freaking, 100-page long tangent. These fantasy guys, and I guess so does Brandon Sanderson, but that's the thing is you fall so in love with your fantasy world and your characters, and you're like, what can I do to help the readers explore more of this world? Like, what little side quest can I do? This is why sometimes I think of Harry Potter again, and maybe it's because at least for the first half of the series, it was definitely targeted at a younger audience. But she was just able. There were tangents, but she was able to just keep it a lot more brief, and that's part of the reason it's more successful. Like there's still a lot going on in these books, but we're not spending like 50 pages on each thing. How did Sarah J. Maas make it big? What put her on the map? So she did fan fiction and had a huge fan fiction following. And we're talking back in like early 2000s, like 2008 or 9 or something like that. And I believe it was like a Cinderella fan fiction garnered a huge following to where publishing reached out to her. These stories are so crazy to me because it never happens anymore. Like this could not happen nowadays. But publishing reached out to her, and then she changed it. Obviously, there's still like a Throne of Glass is a series that she started with, and it does have a little bit of that Cinderella sort of. So it starts with that Cinderella homage, and but she, just made it her own thing. And I think the fact that it was targeted at young women and she started to include graphic sex scenes, that was genuinely new. So when she did a Court of Thorns and Roses series, that was because Throne of Glass is action adventure with like a little bit of romance, and there's some more graphic scenes, but not till later books. Court of Thorns and Roses has that. It's a romance adventure series, so it has that essence right away of romance and sexuality. And I think it was first marketed as YA, and only within the last few years it's rebranded as new adult or adult. So now you're not going to find it in the YA sections at Barnes and Noble. You're going to find it in adult sections. But I think the idea of like having more like explicit sexuality targeted at young women or young adult women was genuinely new. There really wasn't. She kind of just put romantasy on the map. That sort of mix of romance and fantasy, but making it more explicit, making it more adult. It just wasn't really a thing, which is hard to believe now. But it just really wasn't. So she was unique in that way. And the fact that she took the romance part seriously, but also the fantasy part. Court of Thorns and Roses blew up, and so that's what more people think about. But Throne of Glass, that's a much more because there's like 8 books, so the worlds in there are much more elaborate and get kind of crazy, interdimensional. uh, yeah, and so I think people were impressed by the fact that she was just willing to do kind of the fantasy thing. She was really willing to like put a lot into the worlds and into the magic systems. Sort of the magic systems. I think she doesn't care that much about magic systems. She just wants it to like be cool and cinematic. Um, but I think that's what, yeah, made her big. I guess I can't say for 100% I haven't done the most research on her ever, but that's what I've heard throughout the years. Oh man. Well, we are over that hour time and I'm starting to lose my voice. And I have to actually record a podcast episode, which I haven't done in a minute because I've just been so busy. But so I'm gonna pop off here, but I will be back tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with me today. You guys were so fun. This was one of my favorite streams. This was such a delight. So, and I could talk about obviously books and fantasy people and be forever. So thank you. Well, I love you guys so much, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Mwah, 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 mwah.